On Nationwide this evening, delving into our ancient Irish past, we visit the great passage graves at Newgrange to hear of the latest research uncovering the secrets of the buildings which have stood on this site for centuries. This year on Nationwide, we're taking a look at some of our Irish gems that we think we're familiar with, but that we consider as being just for the tourists. Well, do you know what? They're not just for the tourists, they're for everybody. One of those magical places is Newgrange in County Meath. Now, we came along here 3 days before the winter solstice because the phenomenon of the sun hitting the back of the passage grave actually continues for 6 days, 3 days before and 3 days after the solstice date. That is, of course, if you're lucky enough to get the sun to shine. A person who's been involved here at Newgrange since 1981, for 34 years now, is Claire Tuffy, who is manager of Brú na Bóinne Centre. Claire, Newgrange is magical at any time of the year, but particularly around Christmas time, isn't it?
Well, around winter solstice time. We who work here, we always say this is the time of the year when the monument really comes into its own, because when the foliage of summer falls away, the monument seems to rise up and take a more prominent position. And we love these days around the winter solstice. It seems to make the whole year, when we have all the visitors, worthwhile.
And how do you decide who goes into the chamber for winter solstice?
We have a lottery. It is the fairest, most transparent system we could devise. So some people write to us from abroad and ask us to fill in a lottery form on their behalf, but most of the applications come from people who would have visited during the summer. So this year, to be at Newgrange for dawn at the winter solstice, we had 30,452 applications.
And how many can you take?
We take 60 winners. Each morning we're open, we have 10 lottery winners, and each person who wins gets to bring a guest, because we always think it would be a great pity to have such an opportunity and not have somebody to share it with. So we're open for 6 mornings. We have 20 people in the chamber each morning.
And do people come from all over the world?
Absolutely,
Really?
absolutely. And it just reinforces how special this monument is. And when we contact people and tell them they've won a place at the lottery, the first reaction we often get is, besides the excitement of winning something, is that they remember being here and remember the experience of being here, and they remember it as something really special, and it's a treasured memory from their holidays or from when they came as a child, or, you know, so people remember coming to Newgrange. It has a deep impact on people.
Okay guys, you have your tag, yeah. Mind your heads as you go.
Well, we can hear the buses have just arrived, and the lottery winners are making their way up here to the entrance. There's great excitement, isn't there?
Absolutely, even though it's a cloudy morning and most people are resigned to the fact that we won't see sun in the chamber, just being here, there's not many experiences you can share across 5 millennia. So it's a great opportunity.
I'm really interested in old cultures. I studied anthropology in school, and my partner and I traveled the world to 50 different countries over the last 2 years. And we're really interested in seeing the 7 wonders of the world, and I think Newgrange really belongs on that list.
While the lottery winners are on their way in, other groups gather for the next tour.
We are from all over the world. We're all students at UCD Michael Smurfit School of Business.
And you got up very early to come here, didn't you?
We did, but it seems like it would be worthwhile. New experience.
And what was the reason that you decided you'd like to be part of this experience?
Well, since a lot of us are new to Ireland, it seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, something new, something exciting. We get to see some history. And we're also celebrating someone's birthday from our class, Lena, a little bit early. So it seemed like a good way to get everyone together for this.
Well, this is a nice way to celebrate your birthday.
Yes, true. Oh my God. Yeah, it's my birthday, and they had this amazing idea to just gather all together as a group and do something fun.
Well, it's a lot bigger than I thought it was, and I know I've just never been here. It's a lot more well kept and everything. I haven't been inside yet, but it's a lot more well kept than I thought it would be.
And would you recommend Newgrange to your pals, say, and your family?
100%, 100%. I think I was talking to my dad before I came out, and I was telling him he should come, and I'll definitely be relaying that back to him, that it's definitely worth the visit now.
What was it like inside?
Oh, wow. It was really powerful. I felt a really strong energy. And then in the moment of silence we were contemplating, I really had the feeling that the people probably sang a lot of songs. And then we exchanged vows to be life partners.
Oh my goodness, what a special occasion.
Yeah, very much. It's just a very special place, and you know, I know it's a very, very big deal for the Irish, and we're both actually of Irish descent. But just to be here and to we just feel honored, you know, very, very honored, and you know, even though, you know, there wasn't necessarily a huge beam of light and so forth, we know that people have been gathering here for the millenniums. So, I mean, it's wonderful. It's truly a heritage site, and like Steph was saying in the beginning, it's a wonder of the world. It really is.
Now, with the clouds in the way, we're not going to see the sun enter the chamber today. But here's the wonder of the sunrise at Newgrange as we moved into the 3rd millennium AD. The sun rose spectacularly over the nearby hills, and when that happens, a narrow beam of light makes its way down the 60-foot passage and illuminates the chambers beyond. It's a magical moment that never ceases to move the human spirit.
As we know, Newgrange has been here for 5,000 years, but it wasn't until 1962 that the state began to unearth the secrets from the tomb, if you like. And just a few months after RTE television came on air, the News View programme visited the excavations here.
Good evening and welcome to News View from Newgrange, County Meath at the bend of the Boyne. I'm talking to you from this decorated stone which guards the entrance to a tomb which dates back to 2,000 years before Christ. But if the tomb dates 2000 BC, the story is right up to date, because for the past few weeks a team of archaeologists under Professor Michael O'Kelly of University College Cork have been working here, and they have made some very important discoveries about this tomb, which is regarded as one of the finest of its kind in Western Europe.
Well, the monument, as you have heard, is 4,000 years old and now needs some repairs. So it was thought that the time had come when we should do some investigation around the edge of the mound before these repairs are undertaken. Hence we are here this summer.
I believe it is a big tourist attraction.
Well, very many tourists come here. Some days we have as many as 10 busfuls arriving at the monument.
I see we have quite a lot of students here right now, at least they look students to me.
Yes,
at any rate.
I believe they're a group of Italians who are studying in Dublin at the moment, who have just arrived.
And the general idea was that repairs were needed on the mound here.
Yes, and before these repairs are done, excavation has to be done outside it, so that whatever is done subsequently will be done without doing damage to the archaeological value of the tomb itself.
And now I think we'll go and have a look at some of the discoveries that have been made here.
Well, this is perhaps our most intriguing discovery. It is a mound of turfs which was built here before the great cairn itself was thrown up. The problem is to decide whether this turf mound is of the same date as the cairn and tomb, or whether it belongs to an earlier time.
The heavy digging and all the hard work is done by 12 local men who work here every day from 8:30 to 6 p.m. As well as that, there are about 7 students of archaeology, many of whom have come here from all over the world to learn the techniques of excavation. At the moment you're looking at 3 Swedish students from Uppsala University, and with them 2 Americans from Harvard. And on the extreme left we have 2 Irish girls from Cork, Helen O'Kelly and Elizabeth Murphy. And here's a woman who has lots of stories to tell, if only she had time to tell them. She is Mrs. Ann Hickey. 2 weeks ago she celebrated her 90th birthday, and for 60 of those years she was caretaker of the mound. Mrs. Hickey, what did the old people think of the mound?
A place for fairies, and you dream about them.
Were they afraid of them?
Terrified. Oh, terrified.
Used to come here to the mound at all?
Very, very few. And if anyone was seen walking around it at night, what's going to happen? Something going to happen to us.
I believe they had some customs connected with the mound here.
Yes, but there were old customs. They were very fond of goats, and they loved to drink goat's milk. Anybody that was going to die had to drink a cup of goat's milk to get well.
You used to find the goats up here?
Yeah, yes. Wild goats, you know.
I believe sometimes they used to walk around the stones here.
Well, that wasn't natural. They were bound to do that. Sort of the ceremony.
What kind of a ceremony was it?
Oh, religious.
A religious ceremony?
Yes, religious. That was their religious ceremony.
And now we're right inside the tomb. At the end of this 62-foot passageway, we have an opening 20 feet high with 3 recesses. And in these recesses were placed the bones of the remains. But now they're empty, there's nothing there, and nothing has been there since the Vikings plundered the tomb in the 9th century. But still, the tourists come in their thousands, and they still will continue to come. Specialists seeking knowledge, and the ordinary people just to satisfy their curiosity. And with that, it's good night from me in this tomb dating back to 2000 BC, and good night now from Newsview.
Elizabeth Sheet Tuig was one of Professor Michael O'Kelly's archaeology students back in 1962.
Coming to Newgrange at that time, that's how it looked, all tumbled down.
Recently, she came back to give a lecture on the excavations that have given us the iconic Newgrange we see today.
And the more O'Kelly worked on the site and took it apart, and the more he took it apart and understood how it had been built, the more fascinating it was. You know, it wasn't just a heap of stones, it was this extraordinarily complex engineering feat. The more it went on, the more it was interesting, because one began to understand how it was built. And he was, of course, that was his forte really, the sort of engineering and architectural and design side of anything. He was super at that. But I think wherever you worked with him, the training was so good. You were taught to look and to use your head and think about what you were seeing. And any students, even before or after Newgrange, you know, who weren't necessarily involved here, would say the same.
Well, a lot has happened in these parts since those first excavations in 1962, not least the building of this very impressive visitor centre. It's called Brúnaboine. We're going to have a look inside, but not before we take a break. We'll talk to you again in a couple of minutes. You're welcome back to Nationwide and to Newgrange in County Meath, a place that we as a nation should be very proud of. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It ranks up there with the Pyramids of Egypt and Machu Picchu in Peru. And now, while the megalithic tomb has been here for 5,000 years, this state-of-the-art visitor centre is a much more recent addition. And Claire, this is your domain.
Yeah, this is where I come to work every day. And the centre was opened in 1997. What had happened was that there was so much traffic going directly to the monument that it was very hard to manage visitor numbers and also to develop a visitor experience. So within the visitor centre here now you have a big exhibition telling you all about the people who built the monuments. You've got temporary exhibition space, you've got a shop, you've got tea rooms, you've got all the facilities that visitors expect at a World Heritage Site.
And then when they've done this visitor centre,
they get a shuttle bus to the monuments, and then they arrive at the monuments and you get a guided tour. And the great benefit that the visitor centre has brought to this locality and to the monuments is not only have we got a lot more jobs in a rural area, but also we have a better experience, because when you're at Newgrange, even on the busiest day of the year, it's always quiet, rural setting. You can hear the birds sing and you just feel that sense of going back into the past.
The Wild Atlantic Way has been of huge benefit to the west coast of Ireland and the tourism industry there. And now in this side of the country, there's Ireland's ancient East. I presume Newgrange is a highlight of that.
Oh yes, I mean, we would be one of the big attractions in Ireland's ancient East. But we have so many heritage sites in the Boyne Valley in general that we're hoping that people will stay longer, that they'll come attracted by the visit to Newgrange, but that they'll come and explore all of the wonderful heritage we have in this area. And there are so many hidden gems that, you know, any other country would be absolutely thrilled to have one or two monuments like Newgrange, but we have so much in this part of the world.
I suppose it's not surprising that archaeologists are constantly puzzling over what Newgrange was used for and how it was built. And now there's a new story emerging from the stones, as Niall Martin reports.
Newgrange is the place I send foreign visitors to go see. For me, it evokes a pride in being Irish. The Egyptians have their pyramids, and around the same time our ancestors were building Newgrange. Not just a building, but an annual spectacular light show that still has the power to move us 5,000 years later. From the Brúna Bóinne Visitor Centre, you take a 5-minute bus ride to Newgrange itself. This prevents traffic chaos on the narrow country roads. Today I'm visiting Newgrange with archaeologist Robert Hensey, who's come up with a new theory.
I mean, these monuments, they hold part of our story, the human story. So coming to these places is almost like an act of remembering.
We all think that one day someone outlined a plan to the elders of this wonderful new project they'd come up with. It was going to be monumental, the biggest tribute ever to the ancestors. And after much discussion, the elders agreed to allow work to start on Newgrange.
Today, for the most part, when one mentions the phrase Stone Age man to the majority of people, there is still an unfortunate tendency to think of something akin to the Flintstones. Not very sophisticated, not very intelligent. 5 millennia ago.
But Stone Age Irishmen had the intelligence to build. In fact, there may have been up to 4 versions of Newgrange.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to think of these buildings as we would today, an architect, a design, and we get the builders to make the plan. And if it doesn't look like the plans, we're not happy. But in the past, things were much more organic, and they went through many changes. So in this case here, when O'Kelly excavated, he discovered a turf mound of huge proportions, about 40 metres in diameter. So this is a very significant structure. So Newgrange has had past lives. It's had previous incarnations, and it carries the marks of those incarnations today.
This roof box window is what allows Newgrange to shine. But Robert believes it wasn't there at the start. It came later.
So the roof box is usually explained as a way of combating the slope of the land, and that it's 2 metres above that to compensate for the angle. But the question that is rarely asked is, why would they build a monument that needed a roof box at all? If the passage was simply just a shorter passage, it would have allowed the sunlight in without necessitating a roof box or any of those other features. And that's the puzzle that the roof box asks. That's the question the roof box asks.
Robert believes that what we see today is an extension. At some stage, the decision was made to extend Newgrange out to the front, and that meant that because of the slope downhill, the light would no longer reach the back of the chamber. But if you put a new front section with a Velux-type window above and set back from the main entrance, hey presto, the light beam works again.
So this big roof slab here, roof slab 1, would block the light coming in. But because of the device that we can see above here that O'Kelly constructed, the light can now pass through roof slabs and down into the passage as it would normally.
So how are you so sure that there is an extension in the first place?
Well, we can never be 100% sure, but there's a lot of evidence that seems to indicate that, and from O'Kelly's own report. So he wrote in the 1982 report that this area, the outer part of the passage, appears to be a free-standing structure. So that's the 3 stones on the left here, and then 3 on the right-hand side. He also noticed something peculiar. If you look at all these stones on the left-hand side, they all seem to meet, all of these orthostats, but there's a gap here after 3 stones on the right-hand side. It just didn't quite match, and it's filled with dry stone walling. And just directly above that is the beginning of the roof box. And O'Kelly said again in his own words that there was a structural relationship between that gap and the roof box above it. And this is why the roof box is just at that point. That indicates where the extension occurred.
When Professor O'Kelly was excavating Newgrange in the 1960s, the roof box had partially caved in and had to be removed in order to straighten the weight-bearing uprights below. Now, Robert reckons Professor O'Kelly had a hunch about what would happen on the solstice, but it wasn't until he replaced the roof box in the correct position that archaeologists saw the light, so to speak, and the worldwide sensation that is Newgrange was born. But there has been a folk memory of the phenomenon in the Newgrange area for generations, long before archaeologists figured it out. I've come to meet 82-year-old Hugh Russell, who heard about the solstice light when he was a child.
So we're only just over the hill from Newgrange.
That's all. My father was born in 1880, so therefore he went back a long time. Now, when we would be farming on our farm, we could see the buses going to Newgrange, and he used to tell me that the light shone in on Solstice Day. Now, Bob Hickey and his wife, they were the caretakers. He explained to us what Newgrange was, and he didn't tell us how long, when Newgrange was actually discovered, but he explained to us and brought us in then, and brought us into the cremation chamber there and showed us that, and then told us about the light shining through on the shortest day of the year.
So Robert's new theory says that what we see today is actually an extension of an older original Newgrange. So how plausible is this new theory?
Yeah, it makes great sense because we know that people came back to Newgrange over different generations. People are still coming back to Newgrange. So it makes great sense that they would want to embellish what they had first created. But what I love about Robert's idea is the fact that it was so important to still get the light in. Everything was built around the light and its alignment to winter solstice. So even if it was 500 years later or 1,000 years later, they wanted to persist with getting the light into the chamber.
There's no doubt about it, Newgrange is an incredible site. It's a place that's rich in heritage, in social history, in spirituality, and it's a place of which we Irish people should be very, very proud. If you haven't been here yet, put it on your to-do list for this year. Sin deir leis it lór, go dtíon céad uair mar sin, I bhfeadh agus go dté sibh slán.
On next Friday's Nationwide, visiting an area of outstanding beauty in the southeast. We travel along the River Barrow to see some of the sights and places of interest in this part of the country, and along the way we meet people who call this place home.
And next tonight, a new series of new recipes, starting with a kale broth and a little chicken tonight, on how to cook well with Rory O'Connell, coming up with a sneak peek next.